Part 104. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1033. On the phone, Chen Kailing was a little flustered, and Muzi barely understood what she said. Ning Yue was suspected of murder and was arrested by the police. And the deceased was actually Ning Yue's fiancée, Xia Lixuan. As for why Muzi went there, it was because Ning Yue didn't trust the barrister Situ Yan sent her, and insisted on Muzi defending herself. After receiving such a call at night, Muzi could not remain indifferent, and went to the police station immediately. The street lights were dim, the streets were dark, and the brightly lit police station was particularly conspicuous at night. Chen Kailing anxiously paced outside the gate of the police station. The cool night breeze blew past her dark camel-colored cashmere shawl from time to time, with thin tassels flying. Before Muse's car stopped, Chen Kailing had already walked over. Family visits are not allowed now, and only lawyers can see Yue, but Yue is crying and fussing. She said that only you can let her be released without charge. Chen Kailing said anxiously, the old lady has high blood pressure and can't bear the news. Just sent to the hospital. Don't worry, I'll go and see her first. Muzi walked into the police station, and asked as she walked, what evidence does the police have here? Is there an explanation? There are eyewitnesses. The Xia family's servant said that he saw Yue push Xia Lixuan out of the window, Chen Kailing said. Muzi's steps froze. Although she already knew that the deceased was Xia Lixuan when she answered the phone, she was still surprised to hear it again now. Unexpectedly, Xia Lixuan would die in his own home. Muzi saw Ning Yue in the interrogation room. Ning Yue's expression was panicked, her face was pale, and her temple hair was disheveled, which made her look more and more confused. When she saw Muzi, her eyes immediately turned red, and she stood up emotionally. Muzi, you must save me. I was wrong for everything before, and I was the one who was blinded by lard and opposed you. I beg you, please save me. I really didn't kill anyone. Muzi asked, do you know what happened? Ning Yue burst into tears and choked up. They said Xia Lixuan was dead. But I really don't know what happened, I was outside at the time. Do you have an alibi? Muzi asked again. Ning Yue shook her head with tears in her eyes. I've been in a bad mood recently. I was walking in the Xianghe forest farm, and there was no surveillance video nearby. Although I met a few people on the road, they didn't know me, so they might not remember my appearance. What do I do? In a bad mood, is it because the internet smear failed? Muzi looked indifferent, and reassured her dutifully, calm down first, I will help you apply for bail, but before you go to court, you'd better try to recall whether you met anyone who could testify for you, or who could evidence to prove your alibi. Ning Yue cried so hard that she kept nodding her head. Muzi, you must help me. I know you are the most powerful in lawsuits, right? You have won every lawsuit, so you must have a way to save me, right? She burst into tears, full of remorse. What happened in the past was all my fault. I was overestimated, I was blind, I beg you to save me. Don't worry, I'll send someone to find the tourists who went to the tree farm today. Muzi said calmly, maybe I can find someone to testify for you. Ning Yue calmed down a little, nodded and said, thank you. Muzi didn't add insult to injury, nor did she stand idly by. She very naturally agreed to defend Ning Yue, which made Ning Yue heave a sigh of relief, and felt much more at ease in her heart. Good at litigation, right? Want to be a prosecutor, huh? What a pity, Muzi, this is probably the last lawsuit in your life. Ning Yue's eyes were filled with tears, but she was proud in her heart. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1034. Muzi walked out of the interrogation room and saw Situ Yan, who was talking with the police officer. Because of Ning Yue's sudden arrest, the old lady suffered from high blood pressure on the spot. Sidu Yan and Mr. Sidu went to the hospital immediately. After the old lady's condition stabilized, Sidu Yan came to the police station in time. Seeing Mu Zi come out, Sidu Yan immediately walked over and asked, "What's going on now? Did Yu Wei explain it to you clearly?" She said she was in the forest farm when the crime happened. Mu Zi said, "The vicinity of the forest farm is desolate and there are no surveillance cameras. Unless someone testifies that she has seen Ning Yue, she has no alibi, which is very disadvantageous to her." When Sidu Yan heard this, he frowned and his expression became more serious. Mu Zi looked at his face, and asked tentatively, "How is the old lady doing now?" "Old problem, it's still stable now." Sidu Yan sighed, "When the old lady wakes up, she will definitely see Yue. I will help her apply for bail, so that she can stay at home and take care of the old lady until she goes to court," Mu Zi said. Ning Yue grew up in the presidential palace. For Sidu Yan's sake, the police station should not be too embarrassing. Afterwards, Mu Zi went to see the prosecutor in charge of the case, and asked what charges the prosecutor was planning to prosecute Ning Yue. Prosecutors said there was a tentative charge of second-degree murder. Second-degree murder, which carries lesser penalties than first-degree murder, usually refers to those murders that were committed without prior planning. Considering that Xia Lixuan fell from his own home, the prosecution felt that the possibility of deliberate murder was unlikely. It should have been an argument between the two. During the quarrel, Ning Yue accidentally pushed him out of the window, which was more reasonable. However, even manslaughter is homicide, and the crime of second-degree murder should be punished by more than 20 years, or life imprisonment. After Mu Zi found out, she didn't say anything, and left with a calm expression. She went straight home. The steward, Shen Kong, was sitting in the front seat of the car, and saw Mu Zi's complexion in the rear-view mirror. He hesitated to speak. "Miss, are you okay?" "It's okay." Mu Zi exhaled lightly, and said in a low voice, "I just didn't expect Ning Yue to be so ruthless." She always thought that the relationship between her and Ning Yue was just an ordinary dislike, not a deep hatred. It's like the old lady can't get used to her and always doesn't give her a good look, or like Liao Likan who holds a grudge and retaliates as soon as she catches her fault. These are very normal. But Ning Yue got involved in a life lawsuit in order to get revenge on her, which was beyond Mu Zi's expectation. She didn't think about it at all. Normal people don't think so. If you hate someone, you will scold her, beat her, cheat her, and harm her, but why bring another person into it? Isn't Ning Yue going to marry Xia Lixuan? Thinking of these things, Mu Zi felt heavy. Murong Cheng has been coming back quickly recently. The planes are always flying here and there, as if the fuel cost is not money. He saw that Mu Zi was depressed and asked her what was going on. Mu Zi told him everything in detail. She insisted on me appearing in court to defend her. It's just that there are traps waiting for me to jump. If I don't accept the case, others will think that I am ruthless. If I accept the case, I can only win, not lose. People in the presidential palace will feel pissed, and people outside will think that I deliberately didn't try my best to defend her, but if I win, no, Ning Yue won't let me win. Her whole card hasn't been revealed yet." Mu Zi said a lot of words, sighed faintly, feeling extremely depressed. Xia Lixuan's death has something to do with Ning Yue. If it wasn't for dealing with me, tell me, Xia Lixuan won't die. Murong Cheng was silent for a while, then patted Mu Zi's head. "Have you suffered from the Virgin Mary's disease again? Shall I treat it for you?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1035. There is only one treatment method for Murong Cheng. It's also one of his best. Afterwards, Muzi was paralyzed on the bed with all her strength, and she was so angry that she said, "If you say that I am the Holy Mother, how can you be better yourself, evil father? Do you know nothing but going to bed?" Murong Cheng looked at her inexplicably. "Others, do you want to try? It can be done on the ground or in the car." Muzi shut her mouth and stopped talking. But thanks to Murong Cheng's blessing, Muzi was tormented for a long time, and she didn't have the strength to blame herself, so she fell asleep. Muzi didn't pay much attention to Ning Yue's case. Knowing that it is a bureau, if I still spend time and energy to investigate, it is purely looking for guilt. Since Ning Yue loves to act, it's fine for Muzi to act with her. Muzi went to school during the day and was invited to the presidential palace for dinner in the evening. Ning Yue had a very good attitude and treated Muzi respectfully, as if she sincerely regarded Muzi as her savior. Muzi knew that some people had no heart. At the dinner table, Ning Yue asked Muzi helplessly, "Has there been any progress in my case recently?" Muzi feigned embarrassment and sighed, "I asked people to inquire around the forest farm for a few days, but unfortunately they didn't get any results, so I'm going to change direction and check the witness, hoping to find a breakthrough." The atmosphere at the dinner table was tense. Ning Yue said, "I recalled it these days. I remember that when I was walking around the forest farm, I passed a very simple canteen. The owner of the canteen asked me if I wanted to buy a bottle of water. I ignored her at the time, but maybe she can remember me." After finishing speaking, she stared at Muzi closely, observing the expression on Muzi's face. "That's really great." Muzi smiled, gentle and calm. "I'll go find her after dinner and ask her to testify in court." Ning Yue's heart relaxed, and she also smiled when she heard the words. Things are going well. No matter how smart Muzi is, she is not a fairy, and she will never be so unpredictable, not to mention that she is now a guilty person, and if she makes a mistake, she will be imprisoned. Muzi will never doubt her no matter what. Ning Yue thought about it carefully, and felt that her plan this time was perfect. The smile on her face became more genuine, and she treated Muzi with more sincerity and friendliness. After eating, Muzi comforted her, "Don't worry, as long as there is an alibi, nothing will happen. Then ask someone to prepare the car and go to the forest farm. The vicinity of the forest farm is desolate. On the road, you can occasionally meet a few couples walking side by side, and there are also farmers living nearby." According to what Ning Yue said, Muzi found the canteen. It is indeed simple, a dusty brick house. The goods inside are very monotonous, only tobacco, wine, non-staple food, oil, salt, sauce and vinegar, and the only snack is melon seeds. When Muzi went, a couple was arguing inside, so she didn't go in immediately, just stood outside and watched. The woman was in her 30s and 40s, crying and cursing, pulling the man with her hands desperately. "I don't go home all day long, and I only want money when I get home. The child has just paid the tuition fee, where did I get the money? This is me. The money for next month's delivery. You took it away, and my child and I drank northwest wind." With a fierce look on his face, the man pushed the woman away angrily, and opened the drawer, which was full of broken banknotes. He didn't count, he grabbed a lot and put them in his pocket. The woman cried even harder and rushed over to take the money from him. The man was so annoyed that he kicked him. With a bang, the woman bumped into the corner of the shelf, unable to move for a long time due to the pain. She was so angry that she watched the man take the money and leave. Muzi went in and helped her up, and asked, "Do you want to call the police?" The woman shook her head with tears in her eyes. "It's an old couple's fault, it's a joke to make people laugh." She straightened the crooked stool on the ground, then looked up at Muzi. "Do you want to buy something?" Muzi turned on the phone camera, and showed the other party a photo. I want to ask, did you see this woman on October 17th? Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1036. Remember, the woman replied sharply. Muzi was slightly stunned. Are you sure? After all, it happened several days ago, don't you need to think about it again? She has been here several times, and I am very impressed, the woman explained. After all, in our place, it is rare to see such a beautifully dressed woman. That said, it seems reasonable. Muzi was silent for a while, then looked at the other party again. The thing is like this, there is a case that I want you to testify in court. When Muzi came back from the forest farm, it was already dark on the road. The evening wind carried the chill of early autumn, and it blew across my face, giving me an inexplicable feeling of bleakness. Muzi called the presidential palace and told them that the proprietress of the commissary was willing to testify for Ningyue. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief and just waited for the day of the trial to come. Muzi hung up the phone, looked out the car window at the increasingly dark night, thinking about all the things that happened recently, feeling gloomy and depressed. Ningyue, you are really willing to let go? The day before the trial, Muzi went to school as usual. When the classmates in the class saw her, they seemed very surprised. Everyone read the news and knew that Muzi was going to court, and they all thought that she would take at least one day off today to prepare for tomorrow's trial. I didn't expect Muzi to be so calm. It felt like an exam was coming, but the students didn't plan to study at all. Are you going to court tomorrow? Zainan asked her. Muzi nodded. Zainan glanced around, saw that no one was paying attention here, lowered his voice and said to Muzi, a reporter came to see me. What? Muzi was slightly stunned. What did the reporter ask you for? Zainan seemed embarrassed, and his cheeks turned red again. Ask me to buy your photos and videos. If they are newsworthy, the price ranges from 500 to 5,000 yuan. I guess the reporter has also found other students. After all, we always go to class together and see each other often. While talking, he raised his head to look at Muzi nervously. Don't worry, I didn't ask for their money. And I definitely won't secretly take photos of you. I just want to tell you this, the last video, it might be a classmate auctioned and sold to journalists. Muzi smiled and said, Zainan, thank you, I believe you will not do that kind of thing. Zainan smiled foolishly. The two talked for a while, and Zainan said embarrassingly, Muzi, this time you appear in court, can you take me with you? Same request as last time. Muzi couldn't help asking, why do you want to appear in court so much? In fact, the college will arrange a lot of practice time for us when we are in the second grade. We will appear in court sooner or later, so don't worry. Zainan smiled awkwardly, I just want to accumulate more experience. Some classmates in the class have connections at home and have already signed up for internship positions in the law firm. I have no connections and my ability is not good. Graduating from the training institute does not mean that you can immediately become a barrister with unlimited glory. Many law firms require work experience, such as working as a court clerk for 2 years, or legal clerical work. After entering the law firm, I will not appear in court immediately, but will work as an assistant to the lawyer, do more coordination work, and gain qualifications bit by bit. Someone once calculated that it takes at least 8 years from graduation to becoming a barrister. In some cases, it's not that you can't do it, but that no one will invite you at all. An abnormal case like Muzi's is rare in about 100 years. Muzi thought for a while and said to Zainan, I can't take you with this case. I'll explain the specific reasons to you later. Don't worry about things after graduation. It will always be difficult at the beginning, but it doesn't matter. It's not hopeless, you are serious in your work and cautious in character, there will definitely be law firms that appreciate your talent. Rejected again. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1037. I could vaguely guess Zainan's thoughts. He probably thought that she would win the lawsuit again this time and make an appearance in the media. If she brought him along, he would also be able to get a lot of money by then. It's like following a famous architect to participate in the construction of a bridge. When you go out to find a job in the future, you can proudly tell the interviewer that he has contributed to the bridge. In this way, it is easier to get people's attention. Zainan is very mediocre, it is understandable for Muzi to have this kind of flattery for the sake of his future. In fact, this is also the norm in society, so Muzi will not condemn anything, but can only say that Zainan is unlucky, and it is not suitable to bring him to court for 2 consecutive cases. The first time it was about Zhuangjia's privacy, the second time it was about Ningyue. Ningyue, this lawsuit is very likely to turn into a farce, and Zainan follows her to appear in court, which will not gain any light at all, and will only waste time. So, Muzi rejected him again. The smile on Zainan's face gradually faded, and there was a deep sense of loss in his eyes. Muzi didn't know how to comfort him. Do you promise to bring him with you next time you appear in court? She can't promise, her goal is not to be a lawyer, so she doesn't intend to take cases, most of the time it's to help friends, so she can't predict when she will appear in court next time. Maybe this really will be her last court appearance as a defense attorney. Muzi couldn't make any promises to Zainan. Zainan smiled bitterly, and said, "Did I embarrass you?" "It's nothing, it's just that the timing is wrong." Muzi advised him, "Don't worry, Zainan, there will be opportunities in the future." Zainan nodded slowly. The class bell rang, ending the conversation between the two. At 10 o'clock the next morning, Muzi came to the court. She waited in the corridor for a while, and finally saw the proprietress of the commissary rushing over. "It's about to start, let's go in," Muzi said. The proprietress burst into tears, and said to Muzi, "I can't testify for that young lady." Muzi asked in surprise, "Why?" The proprietress was crying and turned around to leave. Many people nearby looked over. The trial is about to begin, but the only witness is absent, so how can the lawsuit be fought? Muzi hurriedly stopped her, took her to the lounge, closed the door, and asked again, "What happened? You clearly promised well before, why did you suddenly change your mind? You are the only witness who can prove that she is not there." "What?" The proprietress burst into tears and said, "My gambler husband exported my shop. I have to go to my hometown to raise money now, or I won't have a place to live in the future." She looked up at Muzi and explained, "Miss Situ, it's not that I don't want to help, it's that I really can't make it in time. If I can't raise money in time, they will take my shop away." Muzi showed sympathy. "How much did your husband lose?" 18,000. Wiping away tears, the proprietress said, "He really has no conscience. 18,000 has paid off my shop. But I don't have that much cash on hand, and the deposit in the bank has been wiped out by him long ago." "Don't worry, I'll lend it to you first." Muzi took it easy. "Miss Sidhu, you are such a good person. I will definitely pay you back the money as soon as possible." Muzi smiled faintly, "Okay." The landlady's expression froze slightly. She never thought that Muzi would actually ask her to pay it back. For such a rich person, what is 18,000? Why do you want her to pay it back? But it doesn't matter, anyway, the money won't fall into her hands in the end. The proprietress adjusted her mood and looked at Musa with gratitude. "Thank you so much. I don't bring that much cash, can I transfer it to the bank?" Musa lowered her head and operated on her mobile phone. "It has been transferred, please check it." The mobile phone beeps pleasantly. The proprietress received a text message from the bank, and the account balance increased by 18,000. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1038. The proprietress has money, and her heart is set. She walked into the courtroom with music, and sat in the public gallery waiting to be summoned to testify. After the trial began, the prosecutor first summoned the witness, Xia's maid. The prosecutor said, "Please tell everyone what you saw when the incident happened." "I saw Miss Ningyue pushing Master Xia Lixuan down from the window on the third floor," the maid said. "The floor spacing of Xia's house is high, and the banquet hall on the first floor alone is as high as an ordinary three-story building. Although it is on the third floor, it is equivalent to a five-story building. He fell and knocked on the concrete edge of the flower garden downstairs, and broke his neck at that time." "Did Miss Ningyue explain it afterwards?" the prosecutor asked. The maid shook her head. "Miss Ningyue ran away without any explanation." "Why do you think she ran?" The maid replied hesitantly, "Maybe it's because she's afraid, or because she doesn't know how to face it." The prosecutor nodded and looked at the judge. "Your Honor, I'm done asking." It was Musei's turn to cross-examine. She was no different from usual, her eyes were calm and her expression was focused. "Can you tell me what you were doing when the incident happened?" Musei asked. The maid replied, "I'm cleaning in the backyard. The temperature has dropped recently and there are many fallen leaves in the garden." Musei followed her words and continued to ask, "Sweeping the floor should be done with your head down. You with your head down, why did you see the scene upstairs?" The maid explained, "I heard Miss Ning screaming." "You heard the screaming, looked up, and saw my client pushing Xia Lixuan down." Musei tilted her head and asked in confusion, "Screaming and pushing people?" "At that time, the young master had already fallen," said the maid. Musei nodded, "So you didn't see my client push him down, you just saw Xia Lixuan fall, and my client stood by the window, am I right?" "No, that's not the case, the young master was pushed down by her." The maid anxiously stretched out her arms. "At that time, Miss Ning's two arms were stretched like this, as if she didn't have time to retract them after pushing someone." "But this action is also suitable for saving people," Musei said lightly. "The moment Xia Lixuan fell, my client wanted to grab him, but he couldn't catch him, and watched him fall. My client was terrified, so scream. That's how it's supposed to be, right?" "No. It's really the young master she pushed," the maid explained eagerly. "Maybe I remembered wrongly, the screaming may have happened after I saw it, everything happened too fast at that time. As soon as I looked up, I saw the young master being pushed by her pushed down the window." "I'm telling the truth." "You said you misremembered." Musei chewed on the words. "Why don't you think you misread it? How far were you from that building when the incident happened?" Being questioned made the maid feel aggrieved. She bit her lip and replied, "About, more than 80 meters. Musei said, "Shouldn't people's facial features be seen clearly from this distance? She is Miss Ning, wearing Miss Ning's clothes and hat, it must be her." Musei nodded lightly. "So you didn't see who the other party was, you just saw the clothes and hat?" "Your Honor, I'm done questioning, and I request to summon our witnesses." Musei has already shaken the credibility of the witnesses' testimony, and next, as long as the alibi is established, Ningyue will definitely be cleared of the suspicion. The proprietress of the commissary took the witness stand. Musei held Ningyue's photo and asked her, "On the evening of October 17th, have you seen this woman?" The proprietress shook her head, "I don't remember." Musei was stunned. At this time, the proprietress went on to say, "I know, I should say that I met her. After all, you gave me 18,000 yuan, but false testimony is against the law, so I really can't promise you. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HhandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1039. The voice of the witness fell, and the audience was in an uproar. The members of the jury looked at each other, and everyone in the gallery whispered. The judge struck the gavel vigorously. Silence. Silence. The scene finally quieted down. All kinds of eyes fell on Muzi. Some were surprised, some explored, some secretly pleased. Ning Yue only felt that it was extremely wonderful. She looked at the shock in Muzi's eyes, and imagined how panicked Muzi must be. There is nothing more wonderful than this. The judge looked at Muzi sternly. Attorney for the defense, is what the witness said true? Muzi looked confused, and replied, I never gave her money, nor did I instigate her to give false testimony. Article 307 of the criminal law is the crime of obstructing testimony. Using violence, threats, bribes, etc. to prevent witnesses from testifying or instigating others to give false testimony. Yes, I shall be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of not more than 3 years. Your Honor, it is impossible for me to know the law and break the law. I am also surprised why the witness suddenly slanders me. The judge frowned deeply, and tapped the gavel again. Adjourn the court, the time for the next court session is to be determined. The defense lawyers are under investigation immediately. After all, he got up angrily and left the court. Muzi seemed to realize something, and looked at Ning Yue sullenly. Did you do it? Ning Yue smiled contemptuously. I don't understand what you are talking about. Come with me. Muzi stretched out her hand to grab Ning Yue, and angrily rushed to the lounge. She slammed the door shut with a bang. You asked me to find the person, who else but you? Tell me. Did you let her slander me? Muzi was furious. Are you crazy? There is no alibi, you just wait, go to jail. Who said I don't have an alibi? Ning Yue sneered. She should be calm, but seeing Muzi's rare appearance of losing his composure, the excitement in her heart couldn't be restrained at all. She just wanted to crush him into the dust. Muzi, you'd better worry about yourself. Ning Yue couldn't hide her pride in her eyes. It's not bad that anyone who instigates others to commit perjury will be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of less than 3 years, and the lawyer's qualification certificate must be revoked. The training institute will also expel you, right? Interesting, I will be acquitted immediately, but you are going to jail. Do you think it is interesting? Muzi looked at her in disbelief. Why, Muzi really didn't understand. Ning Yue, I have no grievances with you. Why did you hurt me like this? No injustice? No enmity? Ning Yue couldn't help laughing out loud as if hearing the biggest joke in the world. When I went to Qingjiang, I originally wanted to marry the Gu family. The second young master Gu's birthday party was actually to entertain me, but what did you do? Make everyone revolve around you. In the end, my relationship with Gu's marriage is nothing but ruining marriage. Isn't that considered enmity? When Ning Yue brought up the past, she still gritted her teeth with hatred. What did you do when you came to Jingling? You became the president's daughter. The presidential palace held a grand banquet for you. What about me? What did I get? I lived in the president's life. For more than 10 years, you are not as good as a foreigner like you. Even when you get married, you have to step on me. Let me lose face at the wedding banquet. Isn't this considered hatred? Muzi was dumbfounded, but I didn't insist that you marry me one day. You forced me. Ning Yue raised her voice abruptly, her expression frightening for a moment. You want to buy the entire Tianqihuanggong palace when you get married. What can I do? Could it be that the 2 floors of banquets at the end of the year will be compared for people to see? Is it a joke? Are you waiting to be ridiculed that I am just the president's niece, not the president's daughter? Why should I be inferior to you? When Muzi heard this, her expression gradually calmed down, and she smiled, but you are only the president's niece. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1040. Shut up, Ning Yue stood up suddenly as if she had been poked into a sore spot. Her face was distorted, and her delicate eyebrows and eyes were full of strong hatred. What's so great about you? It's just a bone marrow donation. Ning Yue stared at Muzi with hatred. Her voice was cold and harsh. Muzi, your prestige is over, and everyone will know that in order to win the lawsuit, you can do anything, even instigate others to give false testimony. You will be put in prison, and you will be notorious, famous, far, and popular. Muzi looked at her quietly. Even if I go to jail, what good will it do you? Muzi said, once the court revokes my lawyer status, your case will be even more unclear, and the presidential palace, don't forget that I am now the president's daughter. What is the difference between doing this and discrediting the president? The Sidhu family raised you, is this how you repay them? Ning Yue sneered disdainfully, the Sidhu family? The old man has never been dispensable to me. Chen Kaling seems to treat me well, but in fact she only wants her own children. As for Sidhu Yan, he is usually very good, but as long as he treats me with after the old lady quarrels, his eyes will turn cold when he looks at me. Just because my surname is Ning, like the old lady, he still refuses to let go and recognize me as his daughter. Muzi felt that Ning Yue was probably really crazy. Mr. Sidhu attaches great importance to blood inheritance, and Ning Yue is a child of the Ning family in the final analysis. It is normal for the old man not to value it. It is human nature for Chen Kaling to want her own flesh and blood, and there is nothing wrong with it. As for Sidhu Yan, he already disliked his mother's excessive control over him. When the old lady asked him to recognize Ning Yue as her daughter, Sidhu Yan would of course feel conflicted. It was obviously a matter of course, but in Ning Yue's eyes, it became an injury to her again and again. But the old lady treats you very well, Muzi said. What do you wear, what you usually eat and use, including the money you used to bribe witnesses, which one was not given by the old lady? Ning Yue, you not only greedy, but also ungrateful. Ning Yue's expression froze. After that, the frost was overturned, and his face was full of coldness. You don't understand anything at all. Ning Yue's eyes flickered coldly. If she really treats me well, she should let me be the president's daughter, instead of raising me as a daughter while letting me continue to be niece. What have I become? That old thing can only quarrel. Every day, the quarrel makes the president deny me, and the president's wife also keeps me at a respectful distance. She is a fool. I am in such an embarrassing situation now. She gave it. Muzi's face showed shock. This time, it was really surprising. She thought that Ning Yue should at least have some affection for the old lady who raised her, but she didn't expect. After so many lawsuits and sending so many people to prison, you are going to go in now, are you happy? Ning Yue smiled ferociously. Muzi, should you thank me? I'll prepare it for you such a perfect ending. Muzi looked at her silently. At this time, someone knocked on the door outside the lounge. Bang, boom, boom. The smile on the corner of Ning Yue's mouth was even bigger, and the joy in her eyes could not be concealed. Look, who is here? I guess the prosecutor came to ask you for questioning. How did the 18,000 yuan get into the place? What about in other people's pockets? I don't know your explanation. Will the prosecutor believe it? Maybe. Muzi smiled lightly, then turned to open the door. The door of the lounge opened, and there was a group of people standing outside, but none of them were prosecutors. Ning Yue saw the person coming. Her face turned pale for a moment. She froze like petrified. The old madam was trembling with anger. She could barely hold her breath. She rushed over suddenly, and slapped Ning Yue hard on the cheek. Snapped. Bitch, the old lady horse. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1041. The old lady slapped her with all her strength, and no one could stop her. After a slap, he was still not relieved, the blood in his chest was boiling, and his ears were buzzing. The old lady supported the table, feeling that she couldn't catch her breath. She stared at Ning Yue, her eyes widened angrily, and her whole body trembled violently. Chen Kaling hurriedly rubbed the old lady's chest, lest she might have something wrong here. Ning Yue was stunned. She didn't see these people during the court session just now, she only thought that no one from Sidhu's family came, who would have thought they would appear here. How is this going? Is it Mu Zi's conspiracy? Recalling what she said just now, Ning Yue's face was no longer bloodless, as pale as paper. She thought she had the winning ticket, and when she saw Mu Zi's shocked and anxious expression, she felt extremely satisfied, so she said everything triumphantly. It wasn't that she wasn't wary of Mu Zi, but the lounge was an internal facility of the court, so it was impossible for someone to secretly install a wiretapping device. When entering the court, she had to go through a security check, and it was impossible for Mu Zi to carry any secretly recording and wiretapping equipment. As for the mobile phone, Mu Zi was suddenly accused of instigating a witness to give false testimony, and angrily dragged her into the lounge. The whole process was under her nose, and Mu Zi never turned on the mobile phone at all. It is precisely because Ning Yue knows that it is impossible for anyone to hear her words, she is confident. But who knew it would happen? When Mu Zi entered the room just now, she closed the door forcefully. It turned out that she was playing tricks. Mu Zi didn't close the door at all, but left a gap to let people outside the door hear their conversation clearly. Ning Yue looked at Sidhu Yan with a livid face, and then at the old lady who was gnashing her teeth. Her legs were weak and she could hardly stand up. Ning Yue has feelings for the old lady, but this little feeling can't overcome the hatred in her heart. When she complains about her embarrassing life experience, she can't think of the old lady's love at all, and her eyes are full of hatred. Auntie. Ning Yue's voice trembled uncontrollably, it's not what you think. Then what should I think? The old lady yelled sharply, wanting to hit again in a panic, but she couldn't help herself, her old body couldn't help shaking, it was scary. Old madam, Chen Kaling saw the veins on the old madam's forehead, and her heart jumped with fear. Sidhu Yan was extremely disappointed and disgusted by the niece in front of him. But right now, he didn't have the time to teach Ning Yue a lesson, so Sidhu Yan quickly picked up the trembling old lady and walked away. Chen Kaling, who was beside him, hurriedly called the driver, and the bodyguards opened the way ahead, and the group prepared to go to the hospital. Only Ning Yue and Mu Zi were left in the lounge. The door was wide open, and from time to time someone in the corridor looked in curiously. Ning Yue tried her best to calm herself down. Did she lose again? No, she hasn't lost yet. The lawsuit is not over yet. Muse's instigating witnesses to give false testimony is a certainty, and she hasn't lost yet. As long as Mu Zi is sent to prison, she still has a lot of time to slowly coax the old lady back. One end of the balance is tilting towards her, and her advantage is still there. At this time, Mu Zi glanced at the time, and said lightly, the prosecutor must have checked it out by now. It's a coincidence that the proprietress's husband deposited a sum of money into the account today, and she mistakenly thought it was me who borrowed it. I don't even think about it, I don't even know what her account number is, how can I send her money? Ning Yue's head buzzed. She looked at Mu Zi in shock. Mu Zi smiled at her, with a faint smile, I'm disappointed, I probably won't be able to go to prison, but you should really worry about yourself. The only absent witness is suspected of perjury. I'm afraid I won't be qualified to testify in court again." Ning Yue stared at that smiling face, feeling as if she had fallen into an ice cave. She lost. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1042. After Musa left the waiting room, she went to see the judge in charge of the case and asked to withdraw from the trial of the case. The reason was that the defendant had irreconcilable conflicts with himself and took the opportunity to frame his reputation. The judge was not interested in gossip about Sidhu's family, but in order to ensure a fair and serious trial, Mu Ziyi was indeed no longer fit to defend Ning Yue, so the judge allowed Mu Ziyi's request. After leaving the judge's office, Mu Ziyi went to the hospital to see the old lady. Murong Cheng came to pick her up and went there together. Although they had a bad relationship with the old lady, it would be unreasonable for the old lady to be sent to the hospital in front of Musa's eyes if she didn't take a look. On the way, Mu Ziyi asked Murong Cheng how things were going. Murong Cheng said carelessly, "It will be done." The implication is, "Don't worry about what I do." Mu Ziyi glared at him angrily, but there was nothing he could do. The first time she went to see the canteen, she felt something was wrong. The photo shown to the proprietress was of Ning Yue wearing sunglasses and wearing different clothes, but the proprietress recognized it without thinking, as if she had been waiting for it. After Mu Ziyi went back, he told Murong Cheng about this matter, and the two of them thought together that there was something wrong with it, and Murong Cheng immediately sent someone to investigate. The people under him were brutal, and they arrested the wife's gambler husband in an underground gambling shop, then dragged him to an unoccupied demolition house, beat him hard, interrogated him slowly, and explained everything to him. The results of the trial are interesting. It turned out that Ning Yue had already spent money to buy the proprietress. Ning Yue spends a lot of money. For the couple, they can get a lot of money just by saying a few words in court. This is like a pie in the sky. Murong Cheng temporarily detained the proprietress' husband. Anyway, he is a gambler and often stays outside for a few days and nights, so the proprietress is not suspicious at all. On the day of the trial, the proprietress asked Mu Ziyi to borrow money, and Mu Ziyi sent a text message to Murong Cheng. The 18,000 was not Mu Ziyi's remittance at all, but the proprietress's husband, who remitted the private money he had saved over the years. When the proprietress saw the SMS reminder, she only knew that the matter was over and she was in high spirits, and she never checked who the remitter was. When the prosecutor investigates the perjury case, once they are found, the proprietress' husband will tell the prosecutor that Ning Yue used them to smear Musa. Ning Yue probably doesn't know that fists are sometimes better than money to make a person obedient. Murong Cheng said to Mu Ziyi, "A few days ago, she went to the forest farm from time to time. There was an old surveillance camera at the entrance of the canteen. She deliberately walked past the camera and left an alibi for herself." Mu Ziyi suddenly realized, no wonder Ning Yue was so confident. It turned out that even if the witness retracted the confession, there was still surveillance video to testify for her. Murong Cheng had bad thoughts and said, "How about asking that gambler to delete the surveillance video?" "Don't be silly," Mu Ziyi laughed, "destroying evidence intentionally is against the law." Could it be that she was acquitted? Murong Cheng frowned. It would be unpleasant not to punish the other party severely, but Mu Ziyi repeatedly emphasized that he was not allowed to do anything. Mu Ziyi explained, "I'm not trying to help her, I just don't want Ning Yue to take the blame for the real murderer. Someone else should have killed Xie Lixuan. If she and Murong Cheng let Ning Yue plead guilty and go to jail, it would be equivalent to letting the real murderer go, which is not worth celebrating at all." Murong Cheng thought about it. It would be fine if she was acquitted. Ning Yue had offended all the people in the presidential palace, and it was impossible for the Ning family to recognize her again. Without the protection of the family, it would be convenient to fix it any way she wanted in the future. The two had different thoughts, so they put aside the topic of Nangyue for the time being. The car arrived at the hospital. Muzi and Murong Cheng came outside the old lady's ward, and saw Situ Yan and Chen Kaling with sad faces. "How is the old lady?" Muzi asked.